Hello. Today we're going to do a lost phone project, and we're going to try to make what's called a fish pick. That way you can get your fish, you're going to be able to hook it and run it up through their gills without getting your finger in their mouth and getting bit by the teeth on them, for like walleye, pike, etc. Where I'm at, we don't have a whole lot of those, but we do have catfish, and they will bite the living crap out of you. So, taking 2 pieces of styrofoam, hot melted them together. I'm going to lay this on here and trace it out. Cut it out with a hot wire foam cutter or a box blade, and we'll bury it in some sand and melt some aluminum and pour it in and make it happen. Very carefully trace around it with a Sharpie. Flimsy part, you got to really support it. Try to be fairly accurate. Once we get it cut out, we're going to take a piece of sandpaper and radius all the edges, because we do not want this to be sharp in our grip. Alright, kind of jerry-rigged up a wire foam cutter here. Got some nichrome wire. It's pulled out of a hot wire element, I guess, out of the back of a dryer. It's nichrome. Just got a simple little mechanism here tacked to my welding table. A little spring pressure here. A bolt underneath, the wire wrapped around it, and that's where I've got one of my leads. And then over here I've got the other end of the lead that I can adjust up and down this piece of wire coming down to adjust how much heat goes through this. What I'm powering it with is my automotive battery charger. I've got it set on manual mode, and I've got it set down on just 2 amps because it doesn't take a whole lot to get this going. If you bring this up too close to it, it puts more of a dead short on it, and it will trip the machine out. I need to actually sit down and build a good one of these, straighter wire, so that way it can be adjusted with a rheostat of some sorts. Make this somewhat a little more precision. But for now, for just general tinkering around, making little trinkets, this and that, it's fair. One of the things I'm going to do this inside, these 2 pieces of foam were just put together with a hot melt gun. I've done several setups like that and never had a bit of problem with it. The aluminum, when it goes in, it burns it out just like all the rest. So I'm going to go ahead and cut through here, cut the inside out, and then I'll just glue this little section where my entry and exit point with hot melt. And of course, aluminum, you'll never know the difference, and it'll become a solid shape. And we'll just glue that joint back together. Alright, got my hot melt gun on. Go ahead and glue up these splices. Try not to touch the tip to it too much because it does burn the foam back. Push them together really good to make sure it is sticking out. Make sure everything lined up good. And don't glue it down to your table. Alright. Next step is to lay these down inside of it after we get done cleaning them all up. I'm going to sand these and bevel them, radius everything real good, and we'll come back and we'll glue up the sprue. Now we've got them all shaped and radiused, as you can see. We're going to put a sprue between the two. Put a ingate for them. Get some more glue here. Never done a lost foam in 2 patterns, so we'll see how this goes. I've usually just glued them straight to one side and fed one pattern at a time. So this may fly or it may not. We will find out. This will be the drag. I'm going to use a cope and a drag on green sand. We're just going to use sifted dry sand to give it some room for the gases to expand out from under it. I know in the past I've done these. They've all turned out, but I've used wet green sand, and it's like it keeps too much of a seal around it. There's no way for all these burning foam when it expands to get out of there, except for right back up in your face. And of course it throws a molten volcano of aluminum everywhere. So kind of messy, a little bit of an experiment, but we'll see how it goes. Just some regular play sand, run it through a screen like on your window. Just take the aluminum frame out, of course. Keep it in the garage because your wife will get upset if you continue with it. I like putting a lot down at the bottom because I'm going to leave it on this aluminum pan so I can actually carry it outside when we do the aluminum pour. And I don't want any heat transfer to the bottom. Start burning the world down and not even knowing what's going on. It's kind of amazing how this stuff will get out of control before you can even blink your eye, and then there ain't a whole lot you can do about it but let it go. Try to get a halfway smooth bed. Now I'm going to start putting all the other sand in on top of it. I went ahead and I'm going to try something new also. Glued some straws as I stack the other part of this all together. That way whenever the aluminum goes down inside of it and starts creating all those hot gases, the molten foam, hopefully it'll have little smokestacks that it can actually push some of the pressure out instead of trying to backfire in my face. Bend these over that way they don't get sand in them. In theory. Alright, all I got to do now is get some of my green sand out and pack it in a can. I'm going to make a another tube that's lined with sand, so I can have a tall column of this and have some head pressure pushing down. Now when you form this riser, I just got a big soup can, cut it open, eating your soup, cut both ends of it out. I always take a hammer and just peen it around there so that way you're not getting yourself in danger of being cut. And then I just take a piece of solid stock, got some stainless right here, open up my other sandbox on my little cart, and just bead some down in there and tap it in, bead another layer and tap it in until you get it full. Keep a lid on that to keep rolling nice and wet for the next round. Couple twists. With it being real smooth on the outside, usually there's not a whole lot of disturbing going on. And you leave just a little bit of this sticking up. That way it'll go right up inside of this. Push down on it. Pack up around it. That way we've got a whole pipeline to dump that down in. Burning foam is always a pleasant smell. Not really. Actually stinks almost like gasoline. Well, one of them formed, but the glue joint didn't form. Glue joint formed on this one quite well, but everything else looks like garbage. Yeah, that was pretty much a flop. Oh well. Have to play with some fire, melt some metals. It's all good.